My golden sister told me, "You don't even need that apartment. You're single. I'm pregnant. I deserve it." I refused, and now her life is falling apart. Hey everyone, I've been reading posts here for years, but never thought I'd write one. Figured I'd share my story because it's been building since I was a kid. I'm the older sister, 28, and my younger sister, now 26, has always been the golden child. Let me take you through the whole story from the top. Here is the thing. My parents had me when they were still figuring out their careers. 2 years later, my sister was born. From the beginning, it was clear who the favorite was. My parents were polite to me, but when my sister arrived, it felt like everything revolved around her. People noticed it too. Relatives would comment on how much attention she got, but my parents would just laugh it off. As kids, the favoritism was obvious. My birthdays were small with a homemade cake, while my sisters had rented venues and big guest lists. When I asked why, my dad said, "You're older now." I was 7, she was 5. Toys were the same. I saved months for a skateboard. She mentioned wanting a bike and had one by the weekend. My mom's excuse was always, "She's younger, let her enjoy it." School made it clear too. I brought home good grades and got a quick, good job. My sister brought home average work or a drawing, and it went on the fridge. I won first place at a science fair. My dad skipped it for work. She had one line in a school play, and both parents left work early to watch. My mom's reason, she gets nervous. She needs support. I was a good kid, stayed out of trouble, did well in school, helped at home, but my parents acted like I didn't need attention. I was fine while my sister was always the special one, the baby. I constantly heard, "You're older, you should understand," or "She's younger, let her have it." Like my only job was to support her. By the time I hit middle school, the pattern was pretty much set. My sister was the center of everything. I was just there, expected to help out and not make things complicated. At that age, you start noticing the little things more, and there were plenty. In 7th grade, I wanted to enter a science competition and build a small solar-powered car, but there was a fee and supplies needed. When I asked at dinner, my dad said it was too expensive, and my mom suggested I skip it. A week later, my sister signed up for a dance camp that cost twice as much, and they paid without hesitation. I ended up making a rough version from scraps in the garage. I couldn't compete, but my teacher was impressed I tried. That's when I knew if I wanted something, I'd have to do it myself. Home life wasn't just about money, though. It was the way they treated us. If my sister made a mess, I was asked to clean it. If something got lost, it was assumed I was responsible. One time, she left a juice box open on the couch, and it stained the fabric. My mom called me from my room and told me to clean it up. I said it wasn't me. She said, "I know, but she's tired. Just do it." That was normal. She also had this habit of talking back. She'd argue, roll her eyes, slam doors. My parents called it attitude. If I did something like that, it was called disrespect, and I'd lose privileges. There were nights when my dad would pull me aside and say things like, "She's your little sister. You have to keep the peace. Don't provoke her." It didn't matter who started it. It was always on me to smooth things over. At school, I started noticing how different my life was compared to some friends. A buddy of mine had parents who came to her basketball games, helped with projects, asked how school was going. At our house, most conversations with me were instructions. Take out the trash. Help your sister with homework. Don't stay out too late. With my sister, it was always questions and praise. How was your day? What do you want for dinner? You did so well. By 15, I stopped expecting anything from my parents and focused on myself. I mowed lawns, did odd jobs, saved and bought my own things. My sister still got everything handed to her and even joked, "I'm the favorite." My parents would just smile. I stayed quiet, knowing speaking up wouldn't change it. By the time high school started, I just stopped asking for things. When the school had field trips, I usually didn't go because I knew the answer would be no. Once the class went to a science center out of town, it cost maybe $25. I didn't even bring it up. I used to think maybe money was tight, but then I'd see my parents take my sister shopping for clothes or gadgets. One time I overheard my mom on the phone with a family friend. She said, "Lisa's fine. She doesn't need much. She's the one we have to focus on. She's more sensitive." I guess that was how they saw me, someone who didn't need help or attention. But I did. I just learned not to expect it. By sophomore year, I had started finding ways to earn my own money. I'd shovel snow, mow lawns, walk dogs. It wasn't much, but it gave me some control. If I wanted a book or a game, I'd buy it myself. My parents thought it was responsible and told people they were proud I was independent. They didn't see it was because I had no other choice. Meanwhile, my sister kept getting whatever she asked for. If she wanted to join a new club, they'd pay. If she wanted to quit something, they'd say it was fine. She liked showing off too. She'd tell me, "Mom and Dad said I'm special." I'd shrug it off, but it stuck. One last thing from that time. There was a career fair at school. I wanted to go because some tech companies were coming. It was a Saturday event. I asked my dad for a ride. He said he was busy taking my sister to a friend's party. My mom said to just take the bus. I went anyway, but I missed the first part because the bus route was slow. When I got home, my sister was talking about how fun the party was, and my parents were all smiles listening to her. I didn't even bother mentioning the fair. By the end of high school, I had stopped expecting them to be there for anything that mattered to me. I kept my head down, worked when I could, and planned to get out as soon as possible. By the time I finished high school, I already knew I couldn't count on my parents for much. They'd paid some of my basic school expenses, but anything extra I needed came from my own pocket. My sister had just turned 16 and already had a used car my parents bought her. When I asked if I could borrow it for prom, the answer was no, because she might need it. I ended up getting a ride from a friend. It didn't bother me much at that point. I'd learned that I had to handle things myself. I got into a decent state college. Nothing fancy, but solid. And it was in another city, which was important to me. I wanted space. My parents made a big deal about how they couldn't afford much help and how I needed to be responsible. I was offered some financial aid and a small scholarship. They paid my first semester's books, but everything else, housing, food, transportation, I covered with a mix of part-time jobs and savings I had from mowing lawns and doing odd jobs in high school. My sister got a big good luck dinner when she started community college later. When I left for school, it was just a quick goodbye. The first year was rough, but it taught me a lot. I worked evenings at a coffee shop near campus. On weekends, I picked up shifts at a bookstore. My grades stayed solid, but it meant I couldn't do a lot of parties or hang out like some classmates. I didn't mind. It felt good to know that everything I had, I earned. I budgeted tightly. I kept a notebook of every expense down to the smallest snack. When I wanted something like a new phone or a better laptop, I'd planned months ahead. I learned quickly that money disappears fast if you don't track it. Meanwhile, my sister was still the center of my parents' attention. She switched programs twice and eventually decided school wasn't for her. She lived at home rent-free. They bought her a newer car because the first one wasn't reliable. I heard about it when my mom called to tell me she needed help setting up the Bluetooth. It didn't surprise me. At family dinners during breaks, she'd complain about being bored or wanting to travel. My parents would nod and say things like, "We'll figure something out." When I mentioned I was taking 15 credits and working 25 hours a week, they'd just say, "You've always been good at managing things." Sophomore year, I found a better job. One of my professors helped me land a position as an assistant in a small tech company downtown. It paid better than the coffee shop, and the owner didn't mind my class schedule. I kept the bookstore shifts for weekends. Most days, I left my apartment at 7 a.m. and got back after dark, but my savings grew. I opened my first real bank account and started putting money into a small emergency fund. I remember sitting at my tiny desk, proud of the $500 I managed to keep untouched. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The lack of family support didn't bother me anymore. It became normal. I rarely called home unless it was for birthdays or holidays. My parents would ask how school was going, then switch to talking about my sister's latest plans. She got a job at a boutique once and quit after a month because she didn't like the hours. My mom told me she just needs to find her passion. I was tempted to point out that I didn't exactly love working double shifts, but I kept quiet. By junior year, I'd streamlined everything. I moved into a cheaper apartment with 2 roommates, sold my old bike, and bought a used car with cash I'd saved. It wasn't fancy, but it was reliable. Every dollar counted. I picked up freelance work online. Simple data entry, some tutoring, anything that paid. I also started reading about investing. Nothing big, just basics about saving, budgeting, and compound interest. I didn't have a lot, but I liked the idea of being prepared. When my sister turned 18, my parents threw her a big party. She got a new laptop and a week-long trip to the coast with her friends, paid for by them. I sent her a simple message saying, "Happy birthday." No party for me when I turned 20. I celebrated by working a shift and grabbing takeout with a friend. It didn't hurt. It was just the way things were. My parents had different standards for us. They always had. I just made sure to stay focused. By the time I was close to graduating, I'd saved enough to cover a deposit for an apartment and had paid off my small student loans. I didn't tell my parents right away because I didn't want to hear comparisons or comments. When I did mention it during a call, my dad said, "Good, now maybe you can help your sister when she needs it." That line stuck with me. It wasn't meant as a joke. They genuinely saw me as the backup plan for her. That's when I decided that whatever I built, it would be for me. I wouldn't let their priorities dictate mine. Well, after graduation, I stayed in the same city where I went to school. The tech company where I worked part-time offered me a full-time role. It wasn't huge money, but for a 22-year-old just out of school, it was solid. I moved into a better apartment with one roommate, kept my car running, and started putting money away every month. I had a plan: keep grinding, save, and eventually buy a place of my own. At home, nothing changed. My sister, now 20, was still living with my parents. She didn't go back to school after dropping out of community college. She had short-term jobs here and there, quit when she didn't like the hours, and complained about not being supported enough. My parents treated her like she was under pressure. Anytime I called, the conversation ended up about her. "Your sister is figuring things out. She's stressed. Be nice to her. She's sensitive." The rudeness really started showing around this time. When I visited for holidays, she acted like I was a guest in her house. She'd leave her stuff everywhere, make sarcastic comments about my clothes or car. "Wow, you're still driving that old thing. Do you even have time to live working all the time?" If I ignored her, she'd push. "Why are you so quiet? Too good for us now?" One Thanksgiving, I brought a small basket of food and drinks. Nothing fancy, just something to contribute. She rolled her eyes and said, "Thanks. But Mom already covered everything. You really don't have to show off." My parents didn't say a word to her. My dad actually said to me, "Don't get offended. She jokes like that." When she started dating a guy, things got worse. She bragged about how supportive he was, how they were going to do big things. At one dinner, she made a point to say, "He doesn't just work all the time like some people." My mom laughed. My dad added, "She just wants you to loosen up." I kept my distance, but I noticed the pattern. Anything good I did, they minimized. Anything she did, they magnified. Around that time, I got my first promotion. My manager called me into his office, offered me a team lead position. I was proud of it. I set up a small dinner with close friends and sent an invite to my parents and sister. They said they'd try to come. The day came. I booked a nice spot. Nothing extravagant, but I wanted to celebrate. Everyone showed except my family. I called my mom after. She said, "Oh, sorry. Your sister got a new certification and we went out with her." It was some online class certificate, nothing career-changing, but they acted like it was a major milestone. My dad said, "You know how she gets." We couldn't say no. That night, I realized I was done expecting them to show up for me. Despite the family drama, work was good. I kept moving up, saving more, and looking for ways to grow. I learned to avoid unnecessary spending. Started reading more about money, investments, and property. My weekends were split between relaxing, seeing friends, and checking listings. My long-term goal was simple: buy my own place before I hit 28. The calls from my parents stayed the same. If they reached out, it was usually about my sister. "Can you help her with her resume? She needs advice about a loan. She's thinking of starting a business. Maybe you can guide her." If I said I was busy, they'd get cold. Once my mom said, "Don't forget where you came from." I didn't argue. I just kept doing my own thing. During one visit home, I finally called them out. My sister had been complaining about her job, saying she deserved better pay. My mom turned to me and said, "Maybe you can talk to your boss about hiring her." I said, "She doesn't have the experience. I worked for this." My dad frowned and said, "Don't be selfish. Family helps family." My sister smirked. "You act like you're some big deal. It's just a job." That night, I drove back to my apartment and made a decision. I'd never let them decide what I owed. I wasn't rude about it. I just stopped sharing details. I didn't tell them how much I made, where I invested, or what I planned. I kept everything short when they asked. It wasn't anger, just strategy. By 25, I was in a better spot financially than I expected. I had a decent savings cushion, a reliable car, and no debt. My sister still lived at home. She had a newer car my parents helped buy, and they covered part of her expenses. She'd make comments online about being independent, but I knew the truth. She later totaled the car. When my parents hinted again that I should look out for her, I just nodded. I wasn't going to argue. I had bigger plans, and I didn't need their approval. Every sarcastic comment and every ignored moment just made it clearer. They weren't going to change, but neither was I. By the time I was 26, I had a good routine. Work was steady, and my savings finally looked like something. I kept my expenses low and said no to a lot of extras. My friends joked that I was stingy, but I knew what I was doing. I wanted to own something before 30. I started looking seriously at places. I spent weekends checking listings, meeting agents, and running numbers. I wasn't looking for anything huge, just a clean, solid apartment in a decent area. After months of searching, I found it. 2 bedrooms, plenty of light, close to work. The price was fair, and I could handle the down payment. Signing those papers felt like crossing a finish line. I didn't tell my family right away. I waited until I had the keys in my hand. Then I sent a group text with a photo of me in front of the building. Finally got my own place. Took a while, but here it is. The replies were predictable. My mom said, "Congrats. When are you having us over?" My dad wrote, "Good job. Your sister will want to see it too." My sister's response, "Finally, took you long enough." I invited them for a weekend lunch. I cooked, kept it simple, and gave them a tour. My mom immediately started talking about how bright and open it was, and how perfect it would be for a young family. My dad asked about the second bedroom, guest room or office. Before I could answer, my sister jumped in. "It's obviously wasted space. Imagine a crib in there." I laughed. "Good thing I bought it for me, not for you to play dollhouse." She rolled her eyes. "You don't even have anyone. It's just you. Kind of selfish to keep a whole place like this to yourself." My dad gave me a look like I should ignore it. I didn't. "Yeah, I worked 2 jobs and skipped vacations so I could selfishly buy something with my own money. Shocking, right?" My mom changed the subject, but I caught the tone. They were impressed, but it was like they couldn't give me the full credit. They asked about furniture costs, and then my dad said, "Well, at least it's in a good spot. Easy to sell when you upgrade. Maybe your sister can use it if she needs something short-term." I laughed again. "Sure, if she's got market rent and a signed lease." They didn't like that. My mom said, "You're so sarcastic. We're just saying families help each other." "Exactly," I said. "I helped myself because no one else was offering." They went quiet after that. Lunch was fine, but the comments didn't stop. My sister would send texts like, "When I get my own place, it's going to be bigger," or "Nice apartment, could use more color though." I just replied with thumbs up or said, "Great, let me know when that happens." Months later, at another family dinner, things heated up again. My sister was talking about how expensive things were. She complained about rent, gas, and said, "Must be nice having a free place." "It's not free," I said. "Banks love getting paid every month." My dad jumped in. "She just means you don't have to worry about moving. It's easier for you." "Yeah," I said. "It's easier when you plan ahead and don't quit every job you get." My sister glared. "You think you're better because you bought a box with windows?" I smiled. "Better than complaining about a box I don't own." My mom told us to stop. "You two are always at each other's throats. Your sister is just stressed." "She's always stressed," I said. "Maybe that's why you keep paying for her stuff." My dad said sharply, "Enough. We help her because she needs it." "Right," I said. "And I managed because no one helped me. Got it." The room went quiet. My sister muttered something about me being selfish. I just said, "If selfish means not depending on mom and dad at 24, guilty as charged." Even with the tension, I didn't ask them for anything. Didn't bring up my finances. I focused on my job. Things were going well. Meanwhile, my sister kept drifting. She had a string of short-term jobs and posted online about how hard the economy was. Every time I visited home, my parents talked about her plans, her big dreams, and barely asked about mine. I didn't care anymore. I knew my lane. But the hints didn't stop. My mom would say, "When you settle down, maybe your sister could stay at your place for a while." My dad joked, "Hope you got a spare key." My sister laughed. "Yeah, you should keep it clean for when I need it." I kept the same answer every time. Not happening. I worked for it. One night, my dad called out of the blue. My sister needed a place to stay after a breakup. He asked if she could crash at my apartment just for a few weeks. I said, "No, she's your daughter." He said, "She's also an adult," I replied. "She's got 2 parents and a car. She'll be fine." He didn't like it. "You've changed." "No," I said. "I just stopped being the backup plan." I could tell it stung, but I didn't feel bad. I was clear from day one. What I built was mine. They had years to treat me like family. They chose to treat me like support staff. Now I was just giving them the same energy back. Months later, I had everything running the way I wanted. Work was steady. I had savings. My place was fully furnished and felt like mine. My sister, meanwhile, was still at home. She had gone through 2 jobs and a short relationship that ended badly. My parents kept treating her like she was fragile, while I was the responsible one. Then came the family barbecue. It was late summer. Everyone was there. Parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. I showed up with some drinks and sides. My sister arrived last, arm around her boyfriend. The whole family crowded her like she was the guest of honor. Halfway through, she stood up with a big grin. "I have news," she said, raising her glass. "We're having a baby." Everyone cheered, hugged her, congratulated the boyfriend. I walked over and said, "Congrats. Hope you're ready for no sleep." She smirked. "Well, I'll have a lot of help, right?" I didn't think much of it. Then the night went on. Later, my aunt asked, "So, are you still doing a wedding?" My sister said, "Yes, but the timeline is tricky now." She turned to me and smiled too sweetly. "Actually, this is the perfect time to bring this up. I've been thinking about your apartment. It would be the perfect place for us, close to everything, plenty of space for the baby." I almost laughed, thinking it was a joke. Good thing I bought it for me, not for lease. She frowned. "I'm serious. We can't stay with Mom and Dad forever. I need a safe place, and you have that second room you're not even using." "You're right," I said. "It's for my office and my stuff." Crazy how people use rooms in their own homes. She rolled her eyes. "Come on, you don't even have a family. It's just you. This would really help me out." "I worked 2 jobs for years to get it," I said. "Maybe you could try that method." My mom stepped in. "She's asking because she needs it. You're single. You can wait a little while to get another one." I looked at her. "Wait, you want me to hand over the place I bought because she's pregnant?" My dad said, "She's starting a family. That's more important right now. You'll understand when you have kids." I shook my head. So all those years I was on my own, working, paying rent, saving, none of that counted. But she gets pregnant and suddenly my work belongs to her? My sister crossed her arms. "Don't make it a big deal. You can rent somewhere else for a year or 2. We'll take good care of your place." I laughed. "Yeah, because you're famous for taking good care of things. Like that job you quit after 3 weeks or the car you totaled." "Wow," she said loudly. "So, you're going to hold that over me forever? I thought family helped each other." "They do," I said, "when it's a 2-way street, not when it's a 1-way handout." My mom's face tightened. "You always have to bring up the past. She's asking for help during a hard time." "Hard time?" I said. "They made a choice. I didn't sign anything. I'm not their safety net." My dad's voice rose. "Don't talk like that. She's your sister. Show some respect." I stood up. Respect goes both ways. Respect my work, my money, my home. The table went quiet. My sister started to tear up. "You're so selfish. You've always been like this. It's just one thing, and you can't do it for me." "One thing?" I said. "You've had everything since you were a kid. The parties, the car, the attention. I got lectures. Now you want my place? No." She got angry. "Fine. Keep your stupid apartment. Don't expect us at your next big moment. We won't bother." "Trust me," I said. "I stopped expecting you years ago." My mom muttered something about me being cold. My dad shook his head like I was a disappointment. I picked up my stuff. "I came here to eat a burger, not to be shamed for owning something. I'll see you around." On the way out, my sister called after me. "You're going to regret this when you're alone." I turned and said, "Better alone than broke and bitter." That was the last time I tried to be polite about it. The texts started coming the next day. My dad sent, "She cried all night. I hope you're happy." My mom wrote, "We raised you better than this." My sister sent a wall of messages about how I ruined her pregnancy joy. I didn't respond. 2 days later, my sister called saying, "Fine, I don't want it anymore, but you could at least give us money to get a place." I laughed. "You want me to pay you because I said no to giving you my home? That's creative." She hung up. After that, the family group chat turned sour. My parents acted distant. They hinted that I'd turned arrogant. I didn't care. I had my job, my savings, my space. I'd worked for it. I wasn't going to hand it over because someone else couldn't manage theirs. After the gathering, I decided to draw a hard line. I didn't respond to any more guilt texts. My sister stayed mad. My parents were cold. At first, I thought maybe things would cool off. Instead, they doubled down. They started talking to relatives about how selfish I was. A cousin sent me a message saying, "What's going on? Your mom said you wouldn't let your sister stay with you." I explained once, "I bought my own home after years of working. They think it's theirs, not happening." Most of my cousins actually sided with me. A few said, "Yeah, your parents have always babied her." It was nice to hear, but I didn't need validation. Work was my safe zone. I put in more hours, took on projects, and got noticed. A few months later, my manager called me in for another promotion. It came with a raise and more flexibility. I decided to celebrate, but this time I didn't invite my parents or my sister. I threw a small party with friends and a couple of supportive relatives. Everyone else sent congratulations. My parents didn't even text. My sister posted online about families forgetting who matters, which I ignored. Then things shifted. My parents started hinting at money problems. I heard through my cousin that they were covering a lot of my sister's bills. She quit another job during her pregnancy, said it was too stressful. They were paying part of her rent, her car insurance, and covering hospital visits. My dad even dipped into retirement savings. I stayed out of it. Every time I got a vague text like, "Your sister's having a hard time," I replied with, "Hope she figures it out." A month before the baby was due, my mom called me for the first time in weeks. She asked, "Could you just loan your sister a little, just until things settle?" I said, "You mean give her money so she doesn't have to manage her own life?" "No." She said, "You've changed. You used to care." I said, "I learned who cared about me. It wasn't you." She hung up. The baby came. Everyone acted like it was a royal event. I sent a small gift and a short message. "Congrats. Hope the baby's healthy." My sister replied, "Wow, that's it?" I left it on read. As months passed, it was clear things weren't smooth for them. The boyfriend had spotty work. Bills piled up. They moved in with my parents. The wedding plans fizzled once money got tight. I found this out through my aunt, who told me, "Your folks are stressed. Your dad is covering everything." I just said they made their choices. I wasn't gloating. It was just a fact. Then came the moment that sealed it for me. My dad called again, his tone softer. He said, "We might have been too hard on you. We didn't realize how much you did on your own." He asked if I could help with a small amount each month until they got back on their feet. I almost laughed. So, after all these years of me hearing, "You're fine, you can handle it, now I'm supposed to carry you?" No thanks. He said, "It's family." I said, "Exactly. Family supports, not drains. I learned that from you." That ended the call. The real satisfaction came later. My company had a big end-of-year event. They highlighted some employees for major contributions. I was one of them. My photo was up on a screen, my name mentioned in front of the entire company and some local press. They gave me a sizable bonus. I posted one photo online, just me smiling with the award. I didn't tag anyone. The comments rolled in. Friends, coworkers, old classmates. My sister didn't say a word. My mom liked the post but never commented. My dad stayed silent. When I saw them at a holiday dinner months later, the energy was different. They were polite, quieter than usual. My sister barely spoke to me. My dad asked about work in a neutral tone. My mom talked mostly about the baby. No one mentioned the apartment. No one asked for money. It was like they knew the answer already. Before leaving, my sister muttered, "You must feel pretty proud." I said, "Not proud, just glad I stopped waiting for anyone's approval." My dad shook his head slightly but didn't argue. My mom hugged me quickly and said, "Drive safe." That was it. Looking back, I don't think I ever got the apology I deserved, but I got something better. Distance, control, and proof that I could build everything without them. The kid who was told to understand while her sister got all the attention turned into the woman who didn't need their attention at all. They're still the same people. She's still entitled. They're still enabling. But none of it matters now. I have my place, my job, and my peace. When I lock my door at night, I remember that every single piece of furniture, every bill paid, every inch of that apartment came from my own work. That's the only approval I'll ever need.